Welcome in, peeps. Okay, so I think I talked about this before, but this year I started another course, another practicum. It's a story practicum with Freedom Movement. And I am in a year-long schooling with them to learn more about our stories and your stories, how to dig through our stories of our childhood stuff. And yeah, it has been really hard. I had my first small group class yesterday, and let me tell you, I'm a little wrecked from it. We are still digging through our stories too, and it is crazy. I had to go first and still working through so much. But one of our first big class lessons was so interesting. I'm really loving this work, not only for myself, but also, to help my clients, to help you guys through my coaching to really learn about how we are regulating our bodies through our childhood stories and how those traumas affect us and how we react as adults and in our relationships with our kids, our grandkids, with our spouses, with friendships, all of these things. And one of the things that we did the very first class is learn that there is so many little fabrics within the story, and there's so many different people aspects of the story. And so I wanted to talk about some of this beginning stuff today because I think this will be really helpful for you guys too. Is do you have a clear villain in your childhood story? So we were talking about how people in your story have different characters. And it's really funny because we focus on the main character, which is the villain, right? So whenever we're going through a trauma story, it's always there's the villain. So for me, it was like my mom. My mom was so cruel and she was so mean and all of these things. And that is true. Like I can just pinpoint all of these places where there was just places of harm, and I was devastated by her because the things I wanted from her as a mother, she wasn't capable of giving, and it just broke my heart. But as I'm journeying through this whole coaching journey, it's making me dive deeper into the real elements of my story. So one of the thrills that I get of being a trauma informed coach is being able to work with clients and like dig through the heart of like what's going on with them, what's keeping them stuck. And almost every time it is a childhood story. And so it made me question like, well, who's the villain in your childhood story? And is it one person or is it many? And I just thought, let's dig into this and talk about this subject because I just found it fascinating and it really opened my eyes to the particularities in my story. So when I tell you that I'm equally scared and excited about doing this next class practicum in this next upcoming year, I'm not exaggerating. Like there's so much to learn and there's so many different parts to it. And it's fascinating, but at the same time, I know that I'm going to have to look deep within and pull out some of those stories that I had like wrapped all up and be like, yeah, this happened. I know I can name what harmed me. I know I can, call out the thing over here. I know what triggers me. Okay, I'm good. All done. And then I joined this class and they were like, oh, so there's characters in your story and you always focus on one, but let's take that apart. And I'm like, oh no, I have to unwrap that story again and go back through it. And so it piqued my interest and here I am back in class again, but it's okay because I think the more you can dig through those parts, I'm going to tell you right now, like yesterday, I probably went through 10 Kleenexes. I had to sit with somebody where they dug through my story even further. And it wrecked me, but in such a good way because yesterday, I was exhausted, just flat out exhausted. I had all these things going in my mind. There was all these new questions and new realizations. And then I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, that was really hard and that was really good and things are becoming clearer. So I think one of the things that I'm learning with trauma work is that for myself and just even thinking back to some stories that I've heard is that it's so layered. It's not like you tell the story once and you're done. Wrap it up, you're done, let's go. There are so many different parts to it. And so it can be many, many sessions and possibly many, many years. Not where you're devastated by it or anything like that, but just where you're like curious. Like, hold on, why did that happen over here? So that's what we're going to talk about today is just like who's the villain, who's the side villain, who's the victim, who's the person on the side that didn't really help out, who's the one that joined in without knowing they were joining in for this particular thing. I mean, there's just all of these different things. I think the biggest lesson that I learned from my particular story is that I could name the one person that was the villain, my mom. I'm the victim, obviously. But there were a lot more players in this story. And people never pulled me out of the madness. And that was something I had to like unravel and kind of look into a bigger scope instead of this tunnel vision of like, well, she did this and she did that. It was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There was more people in play in this story. And so that's kind of what we started like digging through. When we have this tunnel vision of like, this is what happened, you can name it, you can name the harm. We also have this tunnel vision because it's keeping us safe at the time. Our brains are really beautiful and that was something I learned yesterday is like, there was a place where I'm still blocked on really what happened in this one little space. It was like I could tell this story, but I went from like this part of the story to the ending. And she's like, "What happened here in the middle?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like I kind of know, I kind of remember." And she said, "You're stuck there because something happened in that. Maybe it was traumatic, maybe it wasn't, but there's something that happened in the interim that your little girl eyes will not turn around and look at. You're turning away from it because it's too hard." And I'm like, ooh, yeah, because I'm seeing little snippets of it, but I can't really get the full picture, which is trauma brain, and that does happen, and we understand that. So we're not saying you have to find that. It's just being curious to say like, hey, something happened in the middle of this story right here, and your brain has protected you from it, but it's significant. So I thought that was really fascinating. And this just takes so much time. Like this is my 6th or 7th year of doing all of this story work and trauma work with Carrie's group, and I just am learning new things every year, and I think I'm becoming a more gentle, a more kind and understanding person because of it. And not only just the things that I have had to walk through, but also learning to really sit and listen to the particularities of people's stories and being able to pull things that they don't see, that they may be saying, but they're not seeing it, or maybe the unseen things that they're not saying at all that or that they are saying in the story, but not looking at it as an important part. So I'll just use part of my story as an example to help you understand how this works. So I tended to blame my mom for everything that happened to me, but if I started looking at my whole family, there were other people that played a part in my safety or lack of. And I had to call that out too. And this takes time. Like I'm telling, like this is 7 years in, and I'm finally like digging through the next layer of my story. And it messes up with you a little bit for the truth that you thought you had for so long, where you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, like that wasn't right. And so, you need to take your time with it because you don't want to rush into it too fast. And that's what a good trauma therapist or a coach, hello, can do, is really like several lessons in, just kind of like pull a little bit more and pull a little bit more and find those things that are a little bit deeper than what you started with. Everything we start with is surface level. It's very mute, it's rote. It's like, this is what happened. This is how I feel. This is the end result. Okay, yeah, we can start there. Now let's start unpacking it. So that's how that works. So when I looked at things over time, I realized something that, yes, my mom was the villain. She was the villain in the story, but also the other characters were kind of on the sidelines, but they played a part. So there were neighbors that knew things were going on, and yet they were afraid to call any kind of authority. They asked my brother, which if you ask the victims, they're always going to tell you don't call, because you don't want more strife added to the strife that's going on within you. So yes, you have to ask that question because you want to protect these children. But just know that if you approach a child that is being abused, they're almost 100% of the time going to be like, no, 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 don't call anyone. I'm scared. If they find out, I'm going to get beat worse or have whatever is happening to them, it's going to be worse. And so you're always going to be hit with that. But what I noticed is those characters in the story is like, do they call anyway? Or do you grab other neighbors around? Like, there's a way that you have to continue to kind of like play a part in that story. And the bottom line in that is that no one really came to help. Everyone saw what was going on, but no one came to help. And then I had to look at my father, who, I'm a daddy's girl. Like, I didn't have my dad for half my life. And this is how I was say, my dad worked and he was a long distance truck driver, and I would get postcards from him, and he couldn't be around for 3 months at a time. But when I had to start unpacking this, that wasn't actually true. My dad, yes, he would go on some trips where he might be gone for a month, but he came back home. And when he came back home, he was partying with his friends. He was hanging out by himself. He was kind of a bachelor again. He would come into town for the weekend. He would shower us with gifts. He would love on us so greatly. And then he would take us back to the House of Horrors. He knew that he was taking us back there. He knew that we were getting beat. He knew that we were getting yelled at on the daily, screamed at, not yelled at, screamed at. Which is why the neighbors were like, are you guys okay? No, we're not okay. But, it's the 70s. So when you start pulling apart the pieces of the story, you're like, hold on. And this isn't to vilify your mom or your dad to the point of like, they're, terrible. Listen, I've done major work, and I know where their dysfunction and stuff came from. So I've forgiven both of them, and I'm okay with that. But I also am holding them accountable, is that, my mom was who she was, but my dad, who I always put on a pedestal and was like, poor dad, because my mom left him and took us, I always felt like my dad was the victim. And then I was like, wait a minute. He's coming into town. He's buying us gifts. He's showering us with love. And then he goes, sorry, got to put you back over here because I got to go do my thing. One, I have to work. Yes, that was true. And two, I need to go have my fun on the weekends too. I don't know how this works. I don't know how to manage both of these things. And so oftentimes he just showed up for a day or two, and then he'd go and just hang out and be with his friends and do the things that he wanted to do until my brother was 12. And then my brother was like, I can't stand being in this house anymore. I'm running away. And he called my dad and said, I need to come and live with you. Well, at 12, you can kind of take care of yourself. So if my dad did have to go on a job by then, my brother could be at home by himself. But by that time, my dad was starting to get jobs. I think he started a job locally by that time. So there were things that were changing within my dad's career where he could have taken us and let us live with him and he could have taken care of us, gone to his job, and been home at the end of the night. He chose not to until it wasn't a choice for him anymore. So when you dissect these stories, you can see that there's so many different characters. And also, I won't get into all too much of that, but there was a lust attached to, there was an arousal with my dad in this way of like, I'm making him this hero. I'm making him like, I love my dad. It's like he's my first boyfriend, right? Like he could do no wrong. But when I had to unpack my story, it was like, hold on, Dad. Like, man, that wasn't okay. Like, you should have done something sooner. You knew you were putting us back into this situation. So when you kind of understand those things, you're like, well, this is why I don't trust, or this is why, it's just like you can open up these different areas of like, okay, now I'm understanding why I feel this way over here is because I didn't look at this for what it was because I didn't know how and I didn't have the language for it. So I think it's super interesting when you unpack your stories, and please do it with somebody that is trusted in this and someone that knows what's going on. You can't do this on your own. It really takes someone else to help you through it. But I think when you start the work on that, when you want to start getting healthier and finding out, like, why do these things bother me? Why am I so triggered by this? Why do I feel this doubt and this shame and all of these emotions, and I just can't feel peace and happiness within, even if I have like a good family life right now, or maybe my family life is just so chaotic and I don't know why, but I just know I'm feeling these things. It's probably because of some things that have happened to you when you were younger, and it's created these ideas in your head and these triggers and these things and these traumas and all these things that are swirling around in your body and in your mind, and you don't really know where to place them or why it happened. It might help you to work with somebody to really kind of like dig a little bit deeper and figure out like, what was that story really about? Not what everyone else has told you, not what you've told yourself, but let's go a little bit deeper into it. So a couple of things that we can do before we end this is just a few pointers for you is make sure that you're prepared to be truthful. Don't rewrite history. We tend to do that a lot. We protect you and our little girl a lot of times. And I've been called out on that in my therapy sessions where they're like, no, like let's talk about this a little bit more. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to, but it's so good to do that. There will be some uncomfortable truths that you may have to face. And so know that this is going to take several lessons to go over with someone to just slowly get you to a place where you can turn that little girl's head and really look at the full picture of what happened. Find a good therapist or trauma-informed coach, hello, that is skilled in walking you through this process. It is painful in parts, and there will be a lot of tears when you start to uncover things that are now true that you believed it was something else before. Know that you're not there to place blame on somebody with anger that can't be resolved. This isn't what that is. You can call it out and then find a place where there's some understanding, there's some reality. You're able to reassure that little girl that you believe her, that you can keep her safe now, and that she is worthy of love. You are worthy of love. Let me know if this resonated with you, and if you're ready to dig into your story and I can help you get started, just contact me through my website and we can do something about that. It would be my honor to work with you guys. And I know that it has helped me immensely in my trauma story, my childhood story. And more every time I learn, the only thing that I hold on to is this is such a great thing for me to be able to be a healthier person for my grandchildren, my children, they're adults, but my grandchildren mostly, so that we can end this dysfunction in our family and grow up to be the healthiest versions that we can be. So I hope this episode helped you. And until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye.